The great silver halls of the Galactic Council Station stretched for miles in every direction. The massive structure floated in empty space between three dying stars, casting strange shadows across its metal walls. Inside the main meeting chamber, 12 different alien species sat around a table that glowed with soft blue light. Admiral Taemin, Kim pressed his face close to the viewing screen of his hidden warship. The Earth vessel looked like a piece of floating space junk from the outside, but inside it was packed with the most advanced technology humanity had ever built. He watched the alien meeting with growing anger. The creatures below thought they were alone. They thought no one could hear their evil plans. They were very wrong, Captain. Yoon sat next to Taemin, her fingers ready on the weapon controls. Her dark eyes never left the alien station. She had trained for this moment her entire life. Her father had trained for this moment. Her grandfather had built the first human spy. Ships after Earth detected alien radio signals 50 years ago. Behind them, Lieutenant Park checked their stealth systems again. The young officer was nervous but excited. This was the mission that would change everything for humanity. Earth had been preparing for first contact with aliens for decades, but nobody expected it to happen like this. The aliens in the meeting chamber were discussing Earth like it was a piece of meat at a market. The Zephyrians looked like giant purple lizards with too many teeth. They wanted to strip mine Earth for its rare metals. The Vorthen resembled walking trees with glowing eyes. They planned to use humans as slave labor in their factories. The Krell were small gray creatures with big heads who saw human. Brains as perfect for their experiments. Counselor Vex, the largest Zephyrian, stood up and spoke in the common galactic language. Human computers had broken their codes months ago, so every word was translated instantly. We have watched this planet, called Earth, for many cycles. The beings there fight each other constantly. They have primitive weapons and simple technology. They will be easy to conquer. The other council members made sounds of agreement. The Vorthen delegate waved his branch-like arms excitedly. The humans produce many offspring and live long lives. They will make excellent workers in our mining colonies. Their planet is rich with materials we need for our expansion. Admiral Taemin clenched his fists as he listened. These creatures were talking about enslaving humanity. They saw Earth as nothing more than resources to steal and people to use. They had no idea what they were really dealing with. The Krell scientist spoke next in a voice that sounded like metal scraping against. Stone human brain patterns are unique in the galaxy. They show creativity and problem-solving abilities that could benefit our research. We should preserve some specimens for study before we eliminate the rest, Captain. Yoon whispered to Taemin. These monsters want to use us as lab rats. We should attack now while they are all together in one place. Taemin shook his head. Not yet. We need to hear their full plan. Our people on Earth are counting on us to gather complete intelligence. The meeting continued for hours. The aliens discussed battle plans and invasion routes. They talked about which cities to destroy first and which humans to keep alive. They divided up Earth's continents like they were sharing a meal. They planned everything down, to the smallest detail. What the Council did not know was that Earth had been ready for this day since 1975, when human radio telescopes first detected organized alien communications. What they did not know was that humanity had spent 50 years building hidden weapons and training soldiers. What they did not know was that 300 human warships waited in the darkness around their station. The aliens thought humans were primitive because Earth still broadcast old television shows and radio programs into space. They saw evidence of human wars and conflicts and assumed this meant weakness. They were completely wrong about what human conflict actually meant. Human wars had taught humanity lessons that peaceful alien species never learned. Humans knew how to fight dirty, how to use surprise attacks, how to turn enemy strength against itself. Humans had learned that sometimes being civilized meant being ready to become very uncivilized very quickly. Lieutenant Park monitored. Communication channels from the other hidden human ships scattered around the station. Each ship carried a crew of 30 specially trained soldiers. Each crew had studied alien weaknesses for years. Each crew was ready to die to protect Earth. Council meeting was reaching its conclusion. Councilor Vex stood again and raised his clawed hand. We vote now. All in favor of immediate invasion of the planet Earth. One by 112 hands, claws and tentacles rose into the air. The vote was unanimous. The aliens had just declared war on humanity without even trying to make contact first. They had sentenced billions of humans to death or slavery without a second thought. Admiral Taemin activated his communication system, connecting him to every human ship in the area. This is Admiral Kim to all vessels. The Council has voted for war against Earth. All ships prepare for Operation Thunderstorm, Captain. Yoon began powering up their weapon systems. The ship hummed with energy as railguns charged. And missile tubes loaded. Lieutenant Park sent coded signals to human agents scattered throughout the galaxy. The word would spread quickly. Earth was under threat and humanity would respond. The aliens in the council chamber were celebrating their easy victory. They talked about the riches they would gain and the power they would have. They made jokes about how simple it would be to crush human resistance. They planned victory parades on their home worlds. None of them noticed the small objects, detaching from what looked like space debris around their station. None of them detected the energy signatures of weapons powering up in the darkness. None of them realized that they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. Taemin watched the alien celebration with cold satisfaction. These creatures thought they were predators about to feast on helpless prey. They were about to learn that sometimes prey fights back harder than anyone expects. They were about to discover what happens when you threaten the home world of a species that has been fighting wars for thousands of years. The Council had made their choice. Now humanity would show them the consequences. Earth might be new to galactic politics, but humans were very, very old at war. As the alien delegates began to leave their meeting chamber heading back to their home worlds to prepare invasion fleets, Admiral Taemin gave the signal that would change galactic history forever. All ships. This is Admiral Kim. Execute. Operation Thunderstorm. Show them what happens when someone threatens our home. The darkness around the council station suddenly came alive with the light of human weapons. Space itself seemed to catch fire as humanity's hidden fleet revealed itself. The aliens were about to learn their first lesson about humans. Never underestimate the species that shows up late to the party. The alien invasion fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system exactly as planned. 200 massive warships each, the size of a human city, appeared in formation around the blue planet. The alien commanders expected to find a quiet world with primitive defenses and helpless humans. Instead, they found themselves staring into the barrels of weapons they never saw coming. Commander Soo-Jin Lee stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Incheon, watching. Her tactical display light up with enemy contacts. Her ship was hidden behind the moon, along with 50 other human vessels waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The aliens had walked straight into a trap that humanity had spent decades preparing. Enemy fleet commander was a tall creature called Admiral Korath from the Zephyrian Empire. He had conquered 6 worlds in the past 10 years and expected Earth to be just another easy victory. His massive flagship, the Dominator, carried enough firepower to destroy entire cities from orbit. Admiral Korath opened a communication channel to Earth, broadcasting on all frequencies. His voice was deep and full of arrogance as he delivered what he thought would be humanity's death sentence. Primitive. Humans of the planet Earth. I am Admiral Korath of the Galactic Council. Your world has been selected for immediate conquest. You will surrender all military forces and prepare your population for relocation to work camps. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your cities. You have 1 hour to comply on the bridge of the Incheon, Commander. Soo-jin listened to the alien threat with growing rage. This creature was talking about enslaving her entire species, like it was a simple business transaction. He thought humans were too weak and stupid to fight back. He was about to learn how wrong he could be. Captain Do-hyun sat at the weapons control station, his hands steady on the firing controls. Around him, the bridge crew worked. With calm focus, they had trained for this moment their entire lives. Their parents had trained for this moment. Their grandparents had built the first hidden weapon platforms after Earth detected alien communications 50 years ago, hidden throughout. The solar system were weapons that no alien species had ever seen before. Old satellites had been gutted and filled with missile launchers. Asteroids had been hollowed out and turned into gun platforms. Space stations that looked abandoned were actually filled with human soldiers waiting to fight. Lieutenant Yoon monitored the communication channels, listening to alien chatter between their ships. The enemy commanders were relaxed and confident. They were already discussing which parts of Earth to mine first and how to divide up the human population. They had no idea they were surrounded. Commander. Soo-jin opened a response channel to the alien fleet. Her message was broadcast on every frequency so that every alien ship would hear. Her words clearly. Her voice was steady and cold as ice. This is Commander Lee of the Earth Defense Force, speaking for all humanity. You have entered our solar system without permission and threatened our home world. You have exactly 30 seconds to turn around and leave. If you do not retreat immediately, we will consider this an act of war against the human species, Admiral. Korath actually laughed when he heard the human response. The sound echoed across his bridge as his officers joined. In the mockery, these primitive creatures thought they could threaten the mighty Galactic Council fleet. It was the funniest thing he had heard in years. What can these humans possibly do to us? Admiral Korath asked his tactical officer. Our ships have shields that can stop nuclear weapons. Our hulls are made from the strongest metals in the galaxy. These humans still use chemical rockets and primitive computers. The alien tactical officer was studying his sensors, trying to get a clear picture of Earth's defenses. He could see a few orbital stations and some old satellites, but nothing that looked dangerous. The planet appeared to be protected by maybe 20 small ships that looked like toys compared to Council. Warships. 30 seconds passed, and the human ultimatum expired. Commander Soo-jin looked at Captain Do-hyun and gave a small nod. The captain pressed a single button on his control panel and sent a coded signal to every hidden weapon platform in the solar system space. Around Earth suddenly exploded into light and fire. Hidden missile platforms disguised as old weather satellites opened their panels and launched hundreds of rockets toward the alien fleet asteroid bases that had been silent for decades. Suddenly, revealed massive railguns that fired metal projectiles at incredible speeds. Moon-based laser weapons powered up and sent beams of pure energy slicing through alien hulls. The attack came from every direction at once. The aliens had expected to fight human ships in open space. Instead, they found themselves caught in a crossfire from weapons they never detected. Human missiles struck alien shields with warheads designed specifically to overload their energy systems. Admiral Korath watched, in shock, as his mighty fleet began to die around him. The first wave of human attacks destroyed 30 alien ships in less than 2 minutes. His tactical officer was screaming about weapon signatures appearing from everywhere at once. "How is this possible?" the Admiral shouted. "These humans should not have this technology. Where are these attacks coming from?" The answer came as human warships began to decloak all around the alien fleet. The ships that had been hidden behind planets and moons suddenly appeared with their weapons already firing. Commander Soo-jin's vessel led the charge as 50 Earth ships attacked the confused alien formation. Human ships moved differently than any vessels the aliens had ever fought. Instead of the slow, heavy movements of Council warships. The human vessels darted and weaved like angry insects, their weapons fired in coordinated patterns that seemed to predict exactly where alien ships would try to dodge. Captain Du Hyun targeted the alien flagship, with a weapon the Council had never seen before. The railgun fired a solid metal projectile at nearly the speed of light. The shot punched through the Dominator's shields like they were made of paper and tore a hole through 3 decks of the massive ship. Lieutenant Yoon was monitoring alien communications and could hear the panic spreading through their fleet. Enemy commanders were shouting contradictory orders, trying to understand how humans had surrounded them so completely. Some alien ships tried to retreat, but found their escape routes blocked by more human weapons. The battle that was supposed to last days was over in less than 4 hours. When the shooting stopped, only 12 alien ships remained intact out of the original 200. The rest were either destroyed completely or so badly damaged they could barely maintain life support. Admiral Korath found himself a prisoner aboard Commander Sujin's ship, his pride and arrogance replaced by fear and confusion. The human commander stood before him in the Incheon's detention cell. Her eyes filled with the cold fury of someone whose home had been threatened. "You thought we were primitive?" she said in perfect galactic standard language. "You thought we were weak because we fight among ourselves. You never understood that our conflicts made us stronger, not weaker." The alien admiral looked at his human captor with new understanding. These creatures had not just survived his attack, they had completely destroyed his fleet using tactics and weapons he had never imagined. They had been ready for war while pretending to be helpless. Commander Sujin continued speaking as Admiral Korath listened in growing horror. "You are going to return to the Council with a message from humanity. Tell them that Earth is not defenseless. Tell them that humans do not make good slaves. Tell them that if they want a war, we will give them one. They will never forget." The surviving alien ships were allowed to leave carrying news of the disaster back to the Galactic Council. The mighty invasion fleet that was supposed to conquer Earth had been reduced to a handful of damaged vessels fleeing for their lives as the beaten aliens retreated into deep space. Commander Sujin stood on her bridge watching Earth turn slowly below her home. World was safe for now, but she knew this was only the beginning. The Council would not accept defeat easily and would return with even larger fleets, but humanity was ready. Earth had revealed only a fraction of its true military power, and the galaxy was about to learn that humans had been preparing for this war much longer than anyone realized. The species that arrived late to galactic civilization was about to teach everyone else some very hard lessons about the cost of threatening human families. The 12 surviving alien ships limped back toward the Galactic Council station, their hulls scarred and their crews broken. The journey took 3 weeks, and every day brought new reports of the disaster at Earth. Admiral Korath sat in his damaged quarters writing a report that no council member would want to read. The humans had done more than just win a battle. They had completely destroyed the most powerful invasion fleet in galactic history, using weapons and tactics that should not have existed on such a primitive world. Even worse, they had done it while suffering almost no losses themselves. Ambassador Minho watched the emergency council meeting from his hidden position inside the station walls. He had been living in the maintenance tunnels for months using stolen alien technology to survive. His human appearance was hidden by a genetic disguise that made him look like a tall Rigel trader. The council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 12 species shouted at each other in different languages while their translation devices struggled to keep up. Some wanted to send an even larger fleet to finish what they started. Others were beginning to realize they had made a terrible mistake. Counselor Vex, the purple lizard, who had led the vote for invasion, now looked sick and worried. The Zephyrian had expected to return home as a hero with news of easy conquest. Instead, he faced the possibility of his entire species being dragged into a war. They might not win. The sole surviving fleet admiral stood before the council, still wearing his burned and torn uniform. His report was brief and terrifying. The humans had weapons hidden throughout their solar system. They fought with coordination and skill that suggested years of preparation. They showed no mercy to attackers, but allowed survivors to escape with a clear message. What message, Admiral Korath asked the council leader, an ancient creature that looked like a walking tree. The human commander said to tell, "You that Earth is not defenseless." Admiral Korath replied, his voice shaking. "She said that humans do not make good slaves. She said that if the council wants a war, they will give us one. We will never forget." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The council had attacked what they thought was a helpless world. Instead, they had started a conflict with a species that had been preparing for exactly this situation. The humans had not only survived, they had sent a clear warning about what would happen to anyone who threatened their home. Councillor Vex tried to maintain his authority. "These humans caught us by surprise, but they are still just one world. We control hundreds of systems and thousands of ships. We can overwhelm them with sheer numbers." The Krell scientist disagreed, his gray head shaking nervously. "Our intelligence was completely wrong about human capabilities. They have technology we do not understand, and military tactics we have never encountered. They may be more dangerous than we realized." Meanwhile, light years away from the council station, Captain Yoon was leading a secret human mission that would change everything. The Earth government had decided that defense alone was not enough. They needed to take the fight to the enemy before the council could organize another invasion. Yoon commanded a fleet of 20 human stealth ships loaded with the most dangerous soldiers humanity had ever trained. Their mission was to liberate council slave colonies and turn the galaxy's oppressed populations into allies against their former masters. The first target was a mining world called Kepler 7, where the council had enslaved the native population 10 years earlier. The aliens there had been forced to dig for rare metals under brutal conditions, while council overseers grew rich from their suffering. Human ships appeared in the Kepler system without warning, moving through space like deadly shadows. The council garrison never saw them coming. Human marines landed on the planet's surface with weapons designed to fight alien biology and armor that could stop energy beams. Lieutenant Park led the ground assault on the main prison complex, where thousands of Kepler natives were held in terrible conditions. The human soldiers moved through alien defenses like they were made of paper. Council guards tried to fight, but found their weapons ineffective against human armor. The freed prisoners could barely believe what was happening. Tall creatures from a distant world called Earth had come to rescue them from slavery. The humans brought medical supplies, food, and most importantly, hope that the Council's reign of terror could be ended. Within hours, the entire planet was liberated. Council forces were either dead or fleeing, while human medics treated wounded prisoners and human engineers began repairing damaged cities. The Kepler natives pledged their support to Earth's growing alliance. Similar scenes were playing out across 12 different star systems as human forces struck at Council territory. The strategy was brilliant. Instead of trying to match the Council's massive fleet ship, for ship humans were turning the Empire's own victims against their oppressors. Back at the Council, Station Ambassador Minho received reports of the human attacks through his hidden communication devices. The liberation campaigns were working perfectly. Freed alien populations were providing intelligence about Council weaknesses and joining human military units. The Council was panicking as reports came in from across their territory. Slave rebellions were breaking out on dozens of worlds supported by mysterious human advisors. Supply lines were being cut by ships that appeared and disappeared, like ghosts. Mining operations were shutting down as workers refused to return to their chains. Councillor Vex stood before the assembled representatives, his purple scales pale with fear. "We face a crisis unlike anything in Council history. These humans are not just defending themselves, they are actively destroying our empire. They are turning our own subjects against us." The ancient tree-like council leader asked the question everyone was thinking. What do these humans want from us? Min Ho decided it was time to reveal himself. He activated a hidden door in the chamber wall and stepped into the room still wearing his alien disguise. The reaction was immediate. Guards reached for weapons and alarms began blaring throughout the station. Please, remain calm, Min Ho said as he removed his genetic disguise, revealing his human features. I am Ambassador Park Min Ho of Earth. I have come to discuss terms for peace between humanity and the Galactic Council. The silence that followed was deafening. Council members stared at him in shock and horror. How long had this human been living among them? How much had he learned about their secrets? How many other human spies were hidden throughout their territory? Counselor Vex found his voice first. How long have you been here, human? How did you infiltrate our most secure facility? Min Ho smiled coldly. I have been observing your council for 4 months, learning about your plans and your weaknesses. As for how I got here, let us say that human intelligence capabilities are far more advanced than you assumed. We have been listening to galactic communications for over 60 years. The council leader demanded answers. What do your people want? What will it take to end these attacks? Min Ho's response was calm and clear. Earth demands complete withdrawal of all council forces from human space. Recognition of Earth's sovereignty over our solar system, reparations for the unprovoked attack on our world, and the immediate release of all slaves currently held in Council territory. The terms were shocking, but the alternative was clear in everyone's mind. Human forces were already liberating Council worlds and turning Empire against itself, the species that had arrived late to Galactic. Politics was rewriting the rules with military force and moral authority. Refuse our terms, Min Ho continued, and we will continue liberating every world you have conquered in the past century. We will arm every slave rebellion and support every independence movement. Your empire will crumble from within, as your victims finally have the weapons to fight back. The council faced an impossible choice. Accept human demands and lose face before the entire galaxy, or continue fighting a war against an enemy. That seemed to understand galactic politics better than species who had been playing the game for thousands of years. As Min Ho waited for their answer, human ships continued their liberation campaigns across Council space. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one who arrives late but comes prepared for everything. The Council's answer came in the form of the largest military fleet in galactic history. 3,000 warships from every corner of Council space began moving toward Earth, carrying enough firepower to crack planets and burn entire solar systems. The Council had decided that negotiation was weakness and that humanity needed to be completely destroyed. Ambassador Min Ho received word of the approaching armada while still trapped on the Council station. His hidden communicator crackled with orders from Earth High Command telling him to prepare for immediate extraction. Human stealth ships were already moving to rescue him before the final battle began. But Min Ho had other plans. He activated a hidden signal that he had been saving. For exactly this moment, within seconds, every human spy scattered across Council space began the most dangerous mission in Earth's history. They would sabotage the enemy fleet from within while it was still traveling toward human territory on the Council station. Min Ho walked calmly through corridors filled with panic-stricken aliens preparing for total war. He had spent months learning the station's layout, and now he moved like a ghost toward its most sensitive areas. His genetic disguise was gone, but in the chaos, no one looked closely at another tall alien. The station's main computer core was protected by 17 different security systems that had taken the galaxy's best minds decades to design. Min Ho bypassed them all in less than 10 minutes using techniques that human hackers had developed specifically for alien technology. Admiral Tae Min was preparing Earth's defenses when reports started coming in from across the galaxy. The massive Council fleet was experiencing mysterious system failures. Ships were losing power. dropping out of formation or simply exploding for no apparent reason. The sabotage was beautiful in its simplicity. Human agents had spent months infiltrating Council supply lines and maintenance crews. They had planted tiny devices in fuel systems, computer cores, and weapon platforms. Now, as the fleet rushed toward Earth, these devices activated and began destroying ships from within. Captain Su Jin commanded the defense of Earth's outer system from her new flagship, the Vengeance, a massive warship built with technology learned from captured alien vessels. Her fleet included not just human ships, but vessels crewed by freed aliens who had joined Earth's growing alliance. The survivors of the Council's first invasion had brought back detailed reports about human weapons and tactics. The new fleet was supposed to be ready for anything humans could throw at them. They carried shields designed to stop human missiles and armor meant to resist human railguns. What they were not prepared for was the psychological warfare that humans had learned from studying alien weaknesses. Captain Do Hyun led a squadron of ships broadcasting fake distress signals in perfect alien languages. The messages told stories of human atrocities and impossible weapons that could destroy entire fleets instantly. Fear spread through the Council armada like a virus. Alien commanders who had never faced humans in battle began to believe the propaganda about human brutality. Species that had never worked together started arguing about battle tactics and retreat plans. Lieutenant Yoon had been promoted to captain and now commanded a special unit that specialized in turning enemies against each other. Her ships carried broadcasting equipment that could mimic alien communication systems perfectly. They sent false orders to enemy ships, causing confusion and friendly fire incidents. The psychological attacks were so effective that the Council fleet began falling apart before it even reached Earth's solar system. Ships from different species started shooting at each other, thinking they were under attack. Entire squadrons broke formation and fled when they received fake reports of human superweapons. When the battered remains of the Council fleet finally arrived at Earth, they found themselves facing something impossible. The humans had somehow multiplied their forces by 10 times in just 6 months. Over 1,000 ships waited in Earth orbit, including vessels from dozens of different alien species. The truth was that Earth's liberation campaigns had been incredibly successful. Freed slaves from across the galaxy had brought their own ships and weapons to fight. Alongside humanity, the Council was now facing not just Earth, but every species they had ever oppressed. Admiral Korath found himself commanding what remained of the Council fleet from his damaged flagship. He had been promoted after surviving the first battle, but now he wished he had died with honor instead. The mighty armada that left Council space was reduced to less than half its original strength. The battle began at the edge of Earth's solar system, with both sides testing each other's capabilities. But this time the fighting was different. Human ships no longer fought alone. They were supported by vessels from 20 different species, each contributing their own unique weapons and tactics. Captain Park led a mixed squadron of human and alien ships using hit-and-run tactics that confused Council commanders. The enemy had prepared to fight humans, but they had no experience battling coordinated forces from multiple species working together. The freed aliens fought with desperate fury against their former masters. Kepler natives used mining equipment converted into weapons. Rigel traders turned cargo ships into missile platforms. Vorthon rebels who had hidden in forests for years finally had the chance to strike back at their oppressors. Major Yoon commanded ground forces that included human marines and alien warriors fighting side by side. They boarded Council ships and took them intact rather than destroying them. The captured vessels were immediately turned against, their former fleets adding to Earth's growing armada. The battle raged across the solar system for 2 weeks as Council forces tried desperately to break through to Earth. But everywhere they turned, they found human allies waiting for them. The liberation Campaigns had created a network of support that stretched across known space. On the seventh day of fighting, something unprecedented happened. An entire council battle group switched sides when their Rigel crews mutinied against their Zephyrian commanders. The freed aliens had been secretly communicating with rebels still serving in council fleets. By the 10th day, council morale had completely collapsed. Reports were coming in of rebellions on the council homeworlds as news of the military. Disaster spread. Species that had been forced into the council alliance were declaring independence, and joining Earth's Federation, Admiral Korath made the hardest decision of his military career. On the 14th day of battle, he ordered his remaining ships to surrender rather than face complete annihilation. The mighty council fleet that had come to destroy humanity instead found itself begging for mercy. Commander Su Jin accepted the surrender aboard her flagship, while representatives from 30 different species watched. The ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy, showing everyone that the age of council domination was finally over. The terms were harsh, but fair council forces would be allowed to return home, but they would recognize Earth's sovereignty and pay reparations for their attacks. All remaining slaves in Council territory would be freed immediately, and Council worlds would open their borders to human inspection teams. Most importantly, the Council would dissolve itself. As a governing body, each member species would be free to join Earth's growing federation or remain independent as long as they renounced conquest and slavery. The galaxy was about to become a very different place as the defeated Council ships began their journey home. Earth's leaders were already planning the next phase of human expansion. They had learned that the galaxy was full of species, yearning for freedom and willing to fight for it. Human military advisors would help establish new governments, while human merchants would create trade networks based on cooperation rather than exploitation. Admiral Tai Min stood on the observation deck of his command ship, watching Earth turn slowly below the blue planet that had been threatened with slavery, was now the center of the largest free alliance in galactic history. Humans had arrived late to cosmic politics, but they had certainly made up for lost time. The species that had shown up uninvited to the galactic community had just rewritten the rules of civilization itself, and they were just getting started. The victory over the Council fleet was only the beginning. 3 months after the surrender reports began arriving from across the galaxy that changed everything. The Council had not truly surrendered. They had simply retreated to regroup and plan. Their final desperate assault on humanity-hidden Council loyalists had spent those 3 months building secret fleets in the dark spaces between stars. They recruited mercenary armies from criminal organizations and hired pirate fleets with promises of rich rewards. They even made deals with ancient enemies, putting aside 1,000-year-old feuds to unite against the human threat Admiral. Su Jin received the intelligence reports while commanding the defense of the liberated Kepler system, HER. Sources indicated that over 5,000 enemy ships were gathering in a region called the Dead Zone, where failed stars created perfect hiding spots for massive fleets. The new enemy alliance was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Council remnants worked alongside space pirates. Mercenary companies fought next to religious fanatics who believed humans were demons sent to destroy galactic civilization. Criminal cartels provided weapons and supplies while promising huge profits from selling human slaves. Earth's leadership realized they faced a completely different kind of war. The first conflicts had been about territory and politics. This new struggle was about survival itself. The enemy alliance had only one goal: the complete extinction of humanity and everyone who supported them. Captain Do Hyun commanded a mixed squadron of human and alien vessels on a reconnaissance mission deep into enemy territory. His ships used advanced stealth technology to observe the gathering storm, and what they found was terrifying. The enemy had learned from their defeats and were preparing tactics specifically designed to counter human advantages. The new enemy fleets were organized differently. Instead of the rigid formations that Humans had easily disrupted. They used loose swarm tactics that made coordination attacks much harder. They had developed new weapons designed to penetrate human armor and shields that could absorb human energy. Weapons, most dangerous of all, the enemy had begun using human prisoners as living shields. They captured human civilians from outer colonies and placed them aboard their warships, knowing that human commanders would hesitate to fire on vessels carrying their own people. Lieutenant Park had been promoted to major and now led special operations forces behind enemy lines. Her mission was to rescue human prisoners and gather intelligence about enemy capabilities. What she discovered was worse than anyone had imagined. The enemy was not just planning military conquest. They intended to wipe out human culture completely. They had built massive prison camps where captured humans were being brainwashed to forget their own history. Children were separated from parents and raised to believe that humanity deserved to be enslaved. Major Park's rescue missions became increasingly desperate as she tried to save as many prisoners as possible. Her teams used experimental technology that could transport people instantly across vast distances, but each mission risked revealing human capabilities to the enemy. Back on Earth, Admiral Taemin was coordinating the largest military buildup in human history. Every shipyard in the solar system worked around the clock building new vessels. Every factory produced weapons and armor for the coming battle. Every human adult trained for combat, even those who had never considered military service. The Earth government had made a difficult decision. They would not wait for the enemy to attack first. Human forces would strike at the heart of the enemy alliance before it could organize its final assault. This meant launching the largest offensive operation in human history. Captain Yoon led the advance fleet toward the dead zone. With orders to disrupt enemy preparations, her ships carried new weapons that had been developed using captured alien technology but adapted with human engineering. The results were devastating combinations of galactic science and human creativity. The first battles in the dead zone were unlike anything humans had experienced before. The enemy used suicide tactics, sending entire ships on collision courses with human vessels. They deployed biological weapons designed to target human physiology. Specifically, they showed no mercy and expected none in return. Human forces adapted quickly to the new threat level. Captain Park's special operations teams began targeting enemy command ships with boarding parties that specialized in close quarters. Combat human soldiers in powered armor proved superior to most alien warriors in hand-to-hand fighting. The liberation of prisoner camps became a major part of the human strategy. Each rescued civilian provided intelligence about enemy plans and capabilities. More importantly, the rescued humans could testify to the galaxy about enemy brutality, turning neutral species against the Alliance. Major Du Hyun discovered that the enemy was using a network of ancient alien ruins as communication centers. These structures had been built by a vanished civilization millions of years ago and somehow still functioned as galaxy-spanning transmitters. Human scientists studying the ruins made an incredible discovery the ancient builders had left behind detailed records of a previous galactic war fought against an enemy very similar to the current Council Alliance. The records contained tactical information and weapon designs that could change the entire conflict. The ancient weapons were based on principles that neither humans nor current galactic species fully understood, but human engineers were able to adapt some of the simpler designs. The results included energy weapons that could disable entire fleets and defensive systems, that made human ships nearly invulnerable. As human forces pushed deeper into the dead zone, they began to realize the true scope of enemy preparations. The Alliance had not just built a fleet, they had constructed an entire shadow civilization dedicated to destroying humanity. Hidden bases, asteroid fortresses, and mobile battle stations filled the region. The fighting became a brutal campaign of attrition, as both sides struggled for control of strategic positions. Human tactics evolved to emphasize mobility and surprise, while enemy forces relied on overwhelming numbers and desperate courage. Captain Su-jin found herself commanding battles that lasted for days, as enemy reinforcements continued to arrive from hidden bases. The casualty reports. Made for grim reading, both sides were losing ships and personnel at unsustainable rates. The breakthrough came when Major Park's teams discovered the enemy's main command center hidden inside a massive asteroid fortress. The facility controlled communications for the entire alliance and contained the leadership of every major enemy faction. The assault on the command asteroid became the largest single battle of the war. Human forces had to fight through multiple layers of defenses while enemy ships tried to evacuate their leadership. The fighting was desperate and bloody as both sides knew that victory here would determine the outcome of the entire conflict. Human boarding parties fought room by room through the asteroid's tunnels, while enemy defenders used every trick they knew to slow the advance. The final battle took place in the main command center as human soldiers faced the last defenders of the enemy alliance. When the smoke cleared, the enemy command structure had been completely destroyed. Their leadership was either dead or captured, and their communication network had been shattered. The remaining enemy fleets began to surrender or flee, as news of the defeat spread throughout their forces. The victory came. At a terrible cost, Earth had lost over 300 ships and thousands of soldiers in the Dead Zone campaign. But humanity had proven something important to the galaxy. They could fight and win even against overwhelming odds and desperate enemies as human forces began the long journey home. They left behind a region of space that had been cleansed of the last organized threat to galactic freedom. The species that had arrived late to cosmic civilization had just won the most important war in galactic history. The real war was over, but the real work of building a better galaxy was just beginning. 6 months after the Great Battle, the galaxy looked very different. The Galactic Council had collapsed as member species either rebelled or simply stopped following orders. Worlds that had been conquered generations ago were declaring independence, often with human military support. Ambassador Min Ho now worked from a proper embassy on the former council station, which had been renamed Freedom Station. Representatives from 43 different species came to him seeking alliance with humanity. Earth had become the center of a growing federation of free worlds, united by their shared hatred of tyranny and their respect for human military power. Admiral Tae Min, now the head of Earth's Space Forces, was dealing with a problem no human leader had ever faced before: how to manage an interstellar empire. Humans controlled or influenced over 60 star systems, protected dozens of species, and commanded the largest fleet in known space. The former Council worlds were learning hard lessons about human nature. Humans could be incredibly generous, allies, sharing technology and resources freely with those who earned their trust. But they could also be absolutely merciless enemies, hunting down war criminals and destroying entire fleets of those who threatened innocent people. Captain Yoon had been promoted to admiral and now commanded the defense of the Outer Rim, where former Council loyalists still tried to rebuild their power. Her ships patrolled trade routes, protected refugee convoys, and delivered swift justice to slavers and pirates. The galaxy was slowly becoming a safer place. On Earth, President Kim addressed the United Nations in a speech broadcast across human space. "We never asked to be galactic peacekeepers," she said. "We were happy on our little blue planet, solving our own problems and dreaming of the stars. But when bullies came to our door threatening our families, we did what humans have always done. We fought back and we won." The irony was not lost on humanity's leaders. Earth had been considered primitive and backward by galactic standards. Humans had missed thousands of years of galactic civilization, arriving late to a party that had been going on without them. But sometimes being late meant learning from everyone else's mistakes. The galaxy had been ruled for centuries by the strong preying on the weak, by advanced species enslaving primitive ones. Humans changed that equation by proving that being primitive did not mean being helpless, and that being newcomers did not mean being victims. As human ships patrolled trade routes across known space, carrying the message that slavery and conquest would no longer be tolerated, the galaxy began to understand a simple truth. Humans might have shown up late to galactic civilization, they might have arrived bloody from their own wars, and they definitely came uninvited to the Council's party. But classic humans, they turned the whole party upside down and made it better for everyone who deserved freedom.